Good morning, all of you. I hope so that you all are fit and fine over there. Children, today we will be starting the chapter number 1 of geography, that is resources. Okay, before coming to the chapter resources, let's first understand that what actually is a resource. A resource is anything that can be used to fulfill a need. We know that in our daily life, we people are having so many needs. Okay, so anything which is basically used to fulfill our need, that thing is called a resource. Like, for example, you people know that paper is very important for us. Okay, we use the paper for writing, so paper will be called a resource. Okay, similarly, if we talk about wood, you know that each and every furniture, it is also prepared from the wood only. Okay, so wood will be also called the resource. Air, which we use for breathing, water, which we use for so many things like cooking, drinking, washing clothes, and so on. So everything which I counted over here, like air, water, wood, okay, all the fossil fuels like coal, petroleum, natural gas, paper, everything is a resource. Why they are the resource? Because they are actually fulfilling our needs. So anything that is fulfilling our needs, that is just fulfilling our needs, that is given the name resource. Now let's talk about the types of resources. Please remember that in all there are three basic types of resources: natural resources, human made resources, and human resources. Okay, now these natural resources are further divided on the basis of the different levels. On the basis of level of development and use, the natural resources are divided into two types: actual resources and potential resources. Okay. Now, on the basis of origin, again the natural resources are divided. You people can see over here on the two types, that is biotic and abiotic resources. Okay. Third category, on the basis of stock and distribution. The natural resources are divided into two types again: ubiquitous resources and localized resources. So we discussed right now resources are of three types: natural, human made, and human. Natural resources are divided into various types like actual resources, potential resources, biotic resources, abiotic resources, ubiquitous resources, and localized resources. Let's discuss these resources one by one. Let's come to the first concept, that is actual resources. Now, what actually we mean by the actual resources? Those resources whose quantities are being surveyed, proper surveys are being done. Okay, their quantity is determined. We are knowing that these resources are available in how much quantity, and also these resources are currently in use. Such resources are given the name actual resources. Like we can say that the petroleum or the natural gas, which is basically which we are obtaining from the Mumbai offshore fields. Okay, they will come in the category of actual resources. So you need to remember actual are those whose quantity is determined, they are actually being surveyed, and they are currently in use. Come to the next one, potential resources. Now, just the reverse of the actual resources are the potential resources. I mean to say that potential resources, number one, their quantity is not estimated, their quantity is not determined, they are also not in the current use, and they will be used in the future. Like uranium deposits, which are basically found in the Ladakh, they will be called the potential resources. Why they are called the potential resources? Because actually their quantity is not determined, they are not in current use, but they will be used in the future. Okay, so these resources are given the name potential resources. Now after potential resources, come to the next one, that is biotic resources. Now biotic, you people know that biotic word is covered from the living beings or living organisms. Okay, so those resources which are basically obtained from the biosphere. they are given the name biotic resources. Like we can say plants are there, animals are there, okay, forest, wildlife. So everything will be covered in the biotic resources. Next one, abiotic. Abiotic means non-living things. Okay, so whichever non-living things are existing, like air is there, water is there, minerals are there, so they all come in the category of abiotic resources. Now, after abiotic resources, come to the next one, that is ubiquitous resources. What actually we mean by ubiquitous? Ubiquitous means the resources which are found everywhere. Like the air which we are using for the breathing part, that air is found each and everywhere. Okay, so that air will be given the name ubiquitous resource. Why it's called ubiquitous? Because it is basically found everywhere. Okay, after ubiquitous resource, the next resource which we will be covering will be localized resources. Okay, localized means they will not be found everywhere, but they will be, their area will be restricted, they will be restricted to a particular area. Like for examples, minerals are there. You know that we are not finding the minerals each and everywhere. They are basically restricted to a particular area. So they are given the name localized resources. So quickly let's have a recap done. Number one, resource is anything which is basically fulfilling our need, which is basically fulfilling our requirement. Okay, whatever things are basically fulfilling our needs are the resources. Like we can say air, water, plants, animals, okay, paper, fossil fuels, coal, petroleum, natural gas, all are the resources. We discussed about three types of resources: natural, human made and human. Natural were further divided into various: actual, potential, biotic, abiotic, ubiquitous and localized. Actual means their quantity is determined. They are currently in use. Potential means their quantity is not determined and actually they are not in use, but they will be used in the future. Biotic, which are basically derived from the biosphere, like we can say air, water, minerals. Abiotic, non-living things. Okay, so abiotic, they're the non-living things. After that, ubiquitous, they are found each and everywhere. Okay, then localized, they are not found everywhere, but actually they are restricted to a particular area. Now, as you people know that if we are consuming so many resources, then one day will definitely come when the resources will be exhausted. Let's take an example of trees. Okay, like if continuously we are cutting down the trees, we are doing the deforestation. So one day will be there when totally the trees will get finished up. So the conservation of resources is very, very important. We need to conserve the resources. Conservation actually means we need to protect the existing resources. We have to care for them. Okay, the stage should not come that one day they get finished off, one day they totally get finished off. Okay, so this conservation is actually the protection of resources. Now let's discuss about some of the ways how we can protect the resources, how we can conserve the natural resources. So the first step is reuse. Reuse means we should try to reuse the resources again and again. If possible, we should try to reuse them. Next, reduce. We should try to reduce the consumption of the resources. We have to use them in a limited way. Okay, we should not think that there are so many resources available, because it takes millions of years to form the resources like fossil fuels or so. And if continuously they will be used at a very great rate, at a very big rate, so one day these resources will be finished off. So we need to reduce their consumption. Continuously we should not use them, but we should limit our use. And next, recycling the available resources. Whichever resources are there, the recycling should be done. With the help of these recycling, which are called the 3 R's, you people must be remembering: reduce, reuse and recycle. So by adopting these ways, we will be able to conserve our resources. Not only this, like that's a common thing which is happening these days. You know that we are suffering from coronavirus and there is actually the shortage of oxygen going on. The people are running after the oxygen cylinders, right? So you need to conserve the air or the oxygen also. How we can conserve? By planting the trees. Okay, just try to plant as many trees as possible. Next thing, that please remember that the conservation of water is also important. A single drop of water, okay, we need to try to conserve that also. Like if you are finding any tap open, try to close it that time only instead of using the running water. Okay, just try to take a water in some bucket or so and then try to use it. So these are some of the ways which can be adopted for saving the resources, for protecting the resources, because conservation is very important. We need to conserve them for our coming future generation. Okay, so try to adopt these ways, try to conserve the resources. I hope so that this chapter must be clear to each and everyone. Okay, for any query you can contact me later on. Okay, till that time, okay, goodbye, take care all of you, goodbye all of you.